All right. Well, on that note, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We'll be sure to sing Marla happy birthday before it's all said and done here tonight. Thank you for joining us. I know it's been a little while since we had our last Zoom with Bloom, so appreciate everybody joining in with us here tonight. We will be covering just different methods of paying for college, and this is a really important subject for incoming students. I mean, this is, again, not the most exciting part, but it is among the most important things. And any person who is going to college this fall, they're all having these same discussions at the kitchen table, and we thought this was a good opportunity for, to have our best and brightest from our financial aid team kind of walk you through some of the options and what the procedures are coming up over the course of the rest of the summer. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves, and we can start with Miss Amanda.
Hey everybody, my name is Amanda Kishbaugh, and I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at BU, also a BU alum.
Right. And hi, I'm Marla Kane. Yeah, Marla Kane, Associate Director of Financial Aid and also a BU alum.
And I'm Tom Kresh, I'm the Director of Enrollment Communications, and I am also a BU alum. So thanks, everybody. And Marla and Amanda, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat or the Q&A function. I'll be sure to relay them to the group. But other than that, yeah, we're excited for this. It should take probably around 30 or 40 minutes or so, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. But Marla, Amanda, the floor is yours.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
All right. And while Amanda does that, we're going to go over some housekeeping items, pretty please. And basically, something we always say, and you might have heard that if you were at orientation with us, is that financial aid tells a story, and every person's story is different. So whether it's about your family situation, whether it's about your income now or in the past or in the future. So, any of the questions that you have that are related to your story, we sincerely ask you to not share them in the chat feature, and instead to reach out to our office. Let's really talk about some generalized questions this evening, and let's reach out one-on-one. You can feel free to give us a call. You can email us. We'll Zoom with you. We're more than happy to do that. And also, with that being said, we're filling in for the Director of Billing, of Student Billing. So we have some information for you in regards to that. And with that also being said, keep in mind that bills are going to be coming out mid-July or so from the Student Billing Office, but also that every student's bill is going to be different for a variety of reasons. It's going to depend upon where do you live, in which dormitory, and it's also going to depend upon which meal plan in which the student has chosen. So again, a generalized kind of questions, and then we can do follow-ups much later. But without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to my director, Amanda Kishbaugh, who's going to get started with our presentation.
Thanks so much, Marla. So we have a few things to go over. It's Lucky Seven, so we have a very light application of a casino theme tonight. We wanted to play off of that, but we wanted to go over some next steps and ways to pay your bill, because we know that's really forefront in your mind at this point. So we'll be going over some items, and like Marla said, we'd be glad to entertain any general questions you have. We will probably save those until the end, and you can put those in the chat feature as we go. So the first thing we'd like to go over is the FAFSA, or the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Hopefully most of you have done this at this point, but it's not too late if you haven't. We really encourage all families to complete a FAFSA form. We actually, like Marla likes to call it, an insurance policy. It's there in case you need it. And it's also something we use with processing things, even like work study. So even if you don't think your student would qualify for anything, it's great to fill out. That way they could have a job on campus if they wanted to pursue that option. It is all done online at studentaid.gov. And this application requires the student and a parent to have an FSA ID. So it's important that if you haven't done that yet, you do want to create FSA IDs for the student and for the parent. You cannot use the same email address to complete both of those FSA IDs. Now, the FAFSA does need to be done annually. So every year, starting in October, the FAFSA will open, and every year, the PA state grant deadline is May 1st. So anyone here from Pennsylvania, that's a great reminder to put in your phone. to make sure that you have that application done by May 1st. It's kind of easy to overlook that deadline, and that is a very hard and fast deadline. FIA does not wiggle from that very much, so it's important to get that done. I know that you're already or just thinking about the fall semester right now, but the October 1st opening will actually be for the 23-24 FAFSA. So even as you're just getting into your college career and really figuring out how college feels, you can already be applying for the following academic year. Now, the FAFSA will determine what's called an expected family contribution, and this is probably one of the most misunderstood terms in all of financial aid, because many families see expected family contribution and think it means that's how much I will need to pay. And in fact, it's really just an eligibility number based on your FAFSA. It does not correspond with your actual out-of-pocket expense. So if you saw a 0 after your student did the FAFSA and got all excited thinking, I don't have to pay anything, unfortunately, that is likely not the case. Now, the lower that EFC number is, the greater your chances are of receiving federal and state grant assistance. So once we receive your FAFSA, we will package financial aid, and many of you have already received your financial aid notifications. We just wanted to point out that we send these electronically and they go to the student's email address. If they have already had a BU email address assigned, it would have gone to that address. If not, it would have been the personal address provided. Now, about mid-year, our templates changed for the award letter. It's the same information, it just laid out a little bit differently. So we have samples provided here of both layouts. And what it will show you is your cost of attendance and your financial aid. Now, the screen grab I did here is only focusing on the cost of attendance because that is where much of the change occurred in the award letter template. We also wanted to share with you that many families are confused by this cost of attendance printed on their award notification. And this is basically a financial aid budget that we use for processing. It is not your bill. So if you are a commuter student, for example, and you see room and board listed on your financial aid award notification, there's no need to panic. We are just required by federal law to include an estimate in room and board when processing financial aid. That does not mean that Bloomsburg would charge you for housing and meals if you are not living on campus. But again, it's just something that we include in that overall processing budget. This is what the new template looks like, and what many of you may have received is this new template. What we did here is try to break down and explain a little bit more clearly how to figure out how much you might owe after financial aid is factored in. And that's what those pictures across the top are reflecting. And that's where I like to really direct families that are trying to figure out, okay, what kind of loan am I going to look at? What kind of out-of-pocket payment? That bar across the top with pictures is really the best place to find that information if you're looking to estimate your out-of-pocket or your potential loan that you may be needing to borrow. So if you go across the screen, it starts with your estimated billable expenses, which are also broken down below. Now, a lot of you may be saying, what's billable versus non-billable? Well, this is where if you are living on campus, you will see as a billable expense your tuition and fees and room and board. All students also have a non-billable expense of books and supplies and personal and transportation. Again, this goes back to the cost of attendance where we're required to have an allowance for those items in your financial aid budget. But that does not necessarily mean you are going to be spending the exact dollar figure provided. We use averages for our budgets, and so we can have students that are well below that or well above that figure that is provided. It's really just an idea for you to plan for, particularly the books and supplies when you're looking at that. So if you're trying to fund that out of pocket, or if you wanted to include that dollar amount in a private loan, for example, that gives you a good idea of what to plan for. So if you follow across the line, you'll notice that this particular student we grabbed had gift aid, which is free money, grants and scholarships. So that is deducted first, and it's giving you some direct costs after any kind of free money that the student is receiving. After that, we deduct loans, which would be the federal student loan. And then at the end, we're arriving at the estimated remaining balance. So for this particular student, and I know it's small, they're expecting to cover a little bit less than $5,000. So again, just a great way to forecast what you might need to cover out of pocket or through additional loan resources. Down below, here's what the grants and scholarships would look like for a particular student. You'll notice that we have the term work study here. For Bloomsburg, we don't currently include work study in most incoming student award notifications because it's up to the student to find the job. So this doesn't mean that your student doesn't qualify. It just means that they haven't found a job yet. Really, any student can qualify for work study. It's just a matter of where that funding comes from. If your student is interested in pursuing a work study position, I would have them visit our website for more information and a listing of all the jobs that are available. Now, we do have these links down towards the bottom that I think you'll find pretty helpful. Obviously, if you haven't paid your deposit yet, we have a link there to do that. You can go quickly to that area of our website. But I wanted to highlight the next steps and other ways to pay. Particularly the next steps, and we're going to see if this works. I have not tested this yet, but hopefully it will take us out to our document. And I may need to reshare the screen here. Can you see our document, the VU next steps, or is it still my PowerPoint?
There's a sample award letter notifications.
All right, so let me go ahead and switch my screen here. Okay, so now you should see VU next steps financial aid. And what this document does is go over some items and give you links to some next steps in terms of finalizing your financial aid package. So for example, if you are borrowing your federal student loans, you want to follow this link here for information about accepting your loans in your MyHusky account. Also, there's information about completing master promissory note and entrance counseling, which are required steps, again, if you're borrowing that federal direct loan. So lots of great information. If you click on that, again, I put the link here on the slide for ease, but you can click that right from your award notification. So let me go back to my PowerPoint here. Okay. All right, so it just went back. There we go. So if you don't have your award notice link anymore and you're wondering what your financial aid is, another great place to look at this is in your MyHusky account. When you first log into your MyHusky account, you'll see something similar to the screen on the left-hand side, where it will have an overview of your outstanding charges and pending financial aid. Now, don't get excited right now when it says outstanding charges or total due is 0. There are no charges listed for any incoming students right now. And typically, like Marla said at the beginning, student billing will do that about the middle of this month. So at that time, you'll receive an email notification that tuition statement has been prepared for you, and you'll be able to log into your MyHusky account to see an accurate representation of your charges. Also keep in mind that if for some reason you only have maybe 9 credits scheduled at the time bills are prepared, the charges will only be based on those 9 credits. We aren't going to assume full time. It will be actual charges for the courses that you have. Same thing if you haven't chosen a meal plan for some reason, that information would not be included on the bill if it's not accurate as of the date the bills are done. Now, I can't tell you how many times we get questions from students and supporters about what does pending financial aid mean? Pending just means that it's waiting. We disperse financial aid or pay it to an account after the end of the drop add period currently, which means it's about the second week in the semester. So you will see your financial aid listed as pending until that time. If you get into the third week of the semester and you still see your aid listed as pending, it's probably a great idea to get in touch with our office to find out if there's something missing or you have anything on your to-do list. Which leads me to my next point. If you'll notice on the right-hand side of this first picture, there's a to-do section. Now, this particular student we grabbed did not have any to-do list items, but you may. And so we encourage you to check your MyHusky account to see if there are any actionable to-do list items that you can take care of before you get to campus. And also check back here frequently to make sure nothing else has been added. If you were at orientation, you would have heard Marla say that MyHusky is kind of like your school portal. And so it's something that you want to become familiar with and check into frequently so that you're not missing anything. Now, if you wanted more detail about your financial aid, you can actually go over on this side here. There's a maroon bar, menu bar, and down towards the bottom is financial aid. And once you expand that, over on the right-hand side here is what you would see. So there are different options related to financial aid. There's also one for finances, which is where you would go to view your billing statement. But you can drill into more specific detail on these other screens. Now, depending on what screen you look at, you may see different dollar amounts, and that I can understand is confusing. Depending on whether you've accepted loans or not, or depending on the semester you're reviewing, you may see different totals. And if at any time you're confused, certainly reach out to our office and we will help clarify the information you're seeing. So this is our main message tonight. Do the math. You want to take your total billable costs minus any financial aid that you're aware of and figure out your out-of-pocket expense at this point. And that way there are no surprises when you get to campus, no surprises when that bill does go out later this month. And our student billing office has this great cost estimator tool that you can use to play around with different options for housing, meals, especially down the road as you become an upper class student and want to see the differences in housing and meal options. That's a great place to go. And we recommend using this until those bills are posted. This will give you a great estimate of your actual bill. Okay. I think, Marla, are you up? I think you're doing other ways to pay tonight.
I sure am. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that. You know, and that last slide that you just showed, you know, do the math. I think, you know, this definitely leads in very well because we are at that other ways to pay. And I always like to, you know, when we're chatting with parents, supporters, and students is, you know, Amanda, if you can go back one slide, is to think of that total bill. Think of it very simply like you're at the grocery store. So your total billable cost is your bill at the grocery store. You're going to minus your financial aid, which is, you know, any of those coupons or things that you have, and your out-of-pocket expenses. How are you going to pay for it? Are you going to use cash on hand? Or are you going to use credit? And that's basically what we're taking a look at now. So on the other ways to pay, are you able to, you know, are you going to use today's money because maybe you have a savings account, maybe you have some funds to pay for that, or are you going to use tomorrow's money? And tomorrow's money would be things such as a Parent Plus loan, private loans, or even a tuition payment plan. And that's what we're going to take our time and talk about now. The first is called a Federal Direct Plus loan. And it is a loan that is in the parent's name. And we can't stress that enough. It is our loan, the parent's loan. So that means that we are the borrower. So we are the one that are going to go out and apply for that loan out on studentaid.gov. The rates are set every July 1st by the federal government. There are fees that are deducted from the disbursement. So you do have to be mindful if you owe, let's say, you know, $4,000, be mindful that you'll have to borrow a little bit over that, or you may be short because the federal government will take out a processing fee for that. You can borrow up to the cost of attendance, which is that budget that Amanda had mentioned. You do have to apply every single year. And do know that there is no debt to income test. So unlike some of the other loans, like we're going to talk about, like those private alternative loans, there really is only a lenient credit check. They're really only looking for a bunch of adverse credit history more so than anything than your debt to credit ratio. Keep in mind that the principal payment, you can defer that, which means, you can push it out until your student has graduated 6 months after they've graduated until payment comes about. But be mindful, be careful, because interest does grow, it does accrue, it does capitalize, meaning that you would owe more upon graduation if you do defer. You may decide, though, that you want to make payments right away or interest-only payments. So there is some great education out on studentaid.gov in regard to those Parent Plus loans. And you must complete a FAFSA to determine any additional aid. One key thing to take away from these Federal Direct Plus loans, if a parent is denied a Plus loan, the student will be eligible to receive some additional unsubsidized student loan. And I think that might be something that some of you have some questions on, because I did run into some of you folks at orientation. I had a really great time meeting you. So if you were one of them, hello again. We'll just take a moment to explain the difference between a subsidized student loan and an unsubsidized student loan. So basically, a subsidized student loan means that interest does not grow or accrue on that particular loan while the student is in school. It also does not grow for the 6 months grace period after they've graduated. Hey, students, grace period simply means you've got 6 months to get a job before the bill comes, okay? The unsubsidized is the complete opposite, which means that the funds interest will grow when the funds have been dispersed. Again, these are federal direct loans that have lower interest rates, that have multiple repayment provisions, that also have federal loan forgiveness options as well. So if the student, again, if the parent is denied a Parent Plus loan, student would be eligible to receive an additional $4,000 over the academic year as an incoming student in the unsubsidized loan, and you will have to fill out additional forms through our office in order to do that. Another option that is available to you would be a private education or alternative loan. And before we begin, we are at Bloomsburg University lender neutral, which means we can't tell you who to use and we can't tell you who not to use. But what we can do is take you to a website that's called elmselect.com. It's that first item listed there. And basically, these private education alternative loans are going to be non-federal loans. So they come from those non-federal entities. They're places such as banks and credit unions, maybe a state agency. So the student will borrow in their name. However, they need a credit-worthy cosigner. So that might be one of you, parents or supporters. And some of these products do have a cosigner release option, which is a great indicator of a great product. So although we can't tell you who to use and who not to use, definitely look for a lender that utilizes that. It is going to be based upon the cosigner's credit score and also their debt to income ratio. So there will be a credit check that's done. And unlike those Federal Direct Plus loans, the fees and the interest rates and items such as the loan amounts and repayment provisions, they're all going to vary by lender. And they can typically be higher than federal student loans. So please just be a smart consumer and make sure that you shop around, especially utilizing elmselect.com. Elm Select is a tool that we have implemented at Bloomsburg, in which our students, the past 3 years, whatever historically, the past 3 years loans that they have used, and that's why those lenders are out on our website. The tool is wonderful because you can compare them apples to apples, and you can take a look and see the difference between interest rates, discounts that may be available, and all those repayment provisions. Additionally, through the student billing office, there is a tuition payment plan that is available for you. The highlights of the plan are available out on the student billing office website, so you can definitely go out and take a look. But here are some of the highlights for you. Very simply, each semester, there is a minimum $35 enrollment fee, which is pretty good when you recognize that basically you can take let's take a look at the fall, for example, the fall and the spring. Whatever the balance that is still owed, you would make 4 months, so 4 separate payments that are interest-free. So really, when you think about it, for $35, you owe a certain amount of money, you're breaking it down interest-free over 4 months and 4 payments. That's a pretty good deal. So definitely, if it's something that's affordable that you can swing, I would definitely look into that. There is a tutorial for you on how you can enroll in order to do that. That is also listed out there as well. I do see that we had a quick chat come up. We had a question, and I think it does relate to the Parent Plus loan. So mom and dad are divorced. Can mom take out a plus loan for half the amount due, and then dad do the same for the other half? Amanda, you want to take a stab at that one?
Sure. So yes, as long as the student is not going over the cost of attendance, we could potentially have two Parent Plus loans with two different borrowers. And if they're both biological parents, that's fine, even if the other one is not on the FAFSA because of the divorce.
Yes, thank you so much. You know, typically what we will see maybe one semester a parent would apply, and then the next semester another parent would apply. So that's an option for you as well. And you're welcome, Jay. All right, some other things that we'd like to share with you through the student billing office. And again, we're just filling in for them, so we'll give you some more information. They wanted us to let you know that you definitely should stay connected. Hopefully you have heard of what is called a FERPA. It's a Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And essentially what the FERPA is it is a federal law. And basically it's the student giving you or whomever they deem permission to talk to our office and the student billing office. So basically they have to grant consent. It's just like HIPAA. So remember when our students turned a certain age in the doctor's office, we had to have them sign off so that we could still talk to them. It's the same kind of concept. So it's really important to make sure that your student goes out and they do that. They give you permission, and it can be found where Amanda actually had showed you out on the student's MyHusky accounts. You'll be able to find an area that says electronic forms, and then it will say student forms FERPA. The student will then go in. They will deem whomever they would like to have permissions to talk to our office. But a key tip for you is on the right-hand side, they have to hit the submit button. Also another tip, it does take maybe a day or so to process. So if you were to have your student do it at 8 a.m. and you try to call us at 3 p.m., it's not going to be processed yet. So go in and do it as soon as possible. Also keep in mind, there's a separate FERPA form that must be completed through the registrar's office for your student to give you permission to discuss grades and scheduling and such. Some other ways to stay connected that they would like them, that the student billing office would like us to share is that there is a parent and supporter connection. So although parents, you will not get the bill that's going to come from the student billing office to your student via email, as Amanda stated. You, by signing up to this parent supporter connection, you'll get a notification that, hey, the bills have gone out. Please have your student give you that bill or forward you that bill or have a conversation with you. Again, you can sign up on the student billing office webpage to receive general information, email notices. It's a great tool. Definitely would recommend that you do so. Always have your student check their Bloomsburg University email. It is the official notification for everybody at Bloomsburg University. So you want to be sure that they're checking it on a frequent basis, but also reading it. Have a conversation with your student. And, you know, even just this first semester, until we get the swing of things, it's new. We're just coming out of senior year, or if you're a transfer student coming from a different institution, or, you know, if you're an adult learner coming back and getting into the groove of things, we understand that it's all new and it's different, and you will get the hang of it, we promise. But you definitely have to read those emails. Have your students forward those emails to you and take care of any action items as soon as possible. We want to help you immediately, but there may be some things that we require from you. And even though we may not require these items from you this year or this semester, things change. We at the Financial Aid Office, we're going to be friends, everybody, because we talk to you every single year. We process your aid every single year, and things can change every single year. So you want to reach out to us. You want to communicate with us. We're here to help you. And with that being said, our contact information is as follows. Again, Amanda and I are with the Financial Aid Office. The Student Billing Office is a separate office. We in Financial Aid, we process aid, whereas Student Billing, they're the folks that are going to send you that bill and are going to accept the payments. Additionally, with payments being said, if your student has received an outside scholarship or an award, maybe from their high school, a foundation, or somewhere else, they are going to send those scholarships to the student billing office, and they'll be more than happy to help you. All right, so I think that concludes what we had planned for you. And if we have a few questions, we're more than happy to entertain them.
Yes, and it looks like we do have a couple questions. So thank you, Marla. Thank you, Amanda. Good question here from Christopher. Do they need to submit a new FERPA every year?
No, they do not, unless they wanted to submit a change to the FERPA. But otherwise, they can fill that out once and it stays in place the entire time they're a student here.
Okay. What about health insurance?
Health insurance is not anything that financial aid or student billing could answer. So I would encourage you to reach out to the Student Health Center. They're great to work with.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else with questions here? You have the dynamic duo here. For Parent Plus, where can we find a Parent Plus loan for the application itself?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So the Parent Plus loan will be available out on studentaid.gov, and they would just look for the Parent Plus loan.
Great, thank you. All right, are you seeing these, Marla?
I'm seeing them, So
okay.
I think I'll tackle this 529 question, Amanda, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead. I have a video issue.
Yeah.
So.
The 529 plan, it's all going to be, it'll be dependent upon your 529 whom it is through, because there are different entities that provide them. But the best thing to do is to reach out to our student billing team, and they will help guide you. If by chance you have a PA 529, whether it's a guaranteed or the investment side of things, very simply, if you are through that PA Treasury Department, all you need to do is log on to your account. You will have to have a snapshot of your bill. You'll upload that bill to the 529 account and let them know how much of the funds that you want. And what's pretty amazing is they send it within 2 days directly to the student billing office. How do I know all this? Because I have 2 kids in college at the same exact time, and I figured it out just by doing it myself. But again, all 529 plans are different. You might have one from a different state. You might have one from a brokerage. So the best thing to do is to reach out to student billing, and they'll be more than happy to help. Got some more questions there, Tom?
Oh, yeah, yes. Sorry, yeah.
He liked that 529 question, everybody. So his kids are a little bit younger, so he's just absorbing.
Yes, it is. It was such a good question. Yeah, absolutely. Question from Jen here. The billing department will bill for only the fall semester, correct? Should we apply for a loan for the whole year or a semester at a time? That is a good question. We get that one a lot.
It is a good question. Yes. So yes, your bill will be by semester. And so the bill you'll see in a couple of weeks is only for fall. We do encourage you to apply for loans on an academic year basis by assuming the same costs for the spring semester. It just makes it simpler. You don't have to worry about applying again later in the year. And then typically bills for the spring semester come out in December.
Okay, question from Natalie here. Does Bloomsburg automatically enroll the students into the school's health insurance? Do we need to deny that on our billing? We have heard of other schools doing this. Good question. So
Bloomsburg University does not provide health insurance, so there would not be any item on your student bill for that. However, we do have a health and wellness fee, which gives you access to our on-campus student health center, and that's basically how you would pay for any visits to that facility.
And the student health center, I think we all learned to do quite a lot of stuff. I mean, they diagnose, they treat, they do a whole bunch of great things. So keep that in mind. You definitely reach out to the student health center. There's some fantastic folks, and they'll tell you all the services and supports that they provide to our students.
What expenses does the 529 cover?
529 covers all educational expenses. So as long as it is in the cost of attendance, that is what can be covered. You'll see in the future, if you have funds available and a student decides to live in an apartment, those funds might be eligible as well, but you will have to talk to your 529 account manager regarding that.
Okay. In the tuition fee cost estimator, how do I figure out which housing option is my son's? Everything is initials. He's in school bill.
So typically new students are in the double dash AC, which just means our standard dorm room that has air conditioning. You would look at the other options. If for some reason you had a suite in some of our housing units, that's not typical for a new student, but as you continue to stay at Bloomsburg, those other housing options open. So I would say that last option, it's the housing double dash AC is the most common.
Okay, great. Yeah, these are great questions. Anybody else? Anybody else with questions? Is the non-billable expenses is just for estimation to include in the loan if needed, just confused with transportation as the student will reside at Bloomsburg?
Yeah, this is a common source of confusion, but yes, even if your student is living here at Bloomsburg, we're required to include transportation costs because we have to assume that maybe the student will take a trip or 2 or 3 or 5 at home every semester. And so that's all part of the cost of attendance budget. You do not need to borrow a loan to cover that cost unless you know that you don't have your own funds to cover those trips back and forth home, or down the road if a student is in an internship or something like that, that's also part of that cost of attendance.
Do you know if the 529 would cover the purchase of a new laptop for college? Good question.
I think that again would be a 529 question, because we don't have it broken down at Bloomsburg University in our tuition and fees. We don't have a laptop budget in there. So I think that's a great question to ask them. Again, each one's different. So you might have one brokerage that says, just send us how much the laptop is and we'll expend funds for that. And you might have another one that says no. So definitely check with them.
If our student is applying for a private loan for the entire year, will there be a second disbursement of the loan for the spring semester?
Yes, we received the loans, a fall portion in September, and then the spring portion is generally late January or early February.
And what is the deadline to accept unsub loans?
So we don't have an actual deadline. However, I'll note that if you don't have those accepted by the time the bills go out, they will not be listed as pending aid on your bill. So we do anticipate bills going out, like I said, mid-July. So if you want them to show up on your bill as pending aid, I would say you want to get that done in the next few days.
I also think it's important to note you probably would rather do that sooner than later, again, for multiple reasons. But I think something that we haven't talked about is the importance, as Amanda mentioned, to do the math, in getting your bill paid. In order to be able to schedule for the next semester, which, believe it or not, will happen way sooner than you'll want. You're like, wait a minute, I just started here. What do you mean I got to file my FAFSA and schedule classes? If you have a balance that is still due over $1,000, your student is not able to schedule. And I promise you, your student will be panicking and calling you at 6:45 in the morning when they're allowed to schedule. Trust me, I know, because I have my own 2 kids. So you want to make sure that that bill is taken care of so that your student is able to schedule, because there's going to be different types of priority for scheduling based upon credits, based upon a bunch of different things, and you don't want to miss out on that.
And now's a good time to point out that paying a college bill is not like eating at a restaurant. You don't wait until the semester is over like you would for a meal. You're actually paying for that up front. So you're basically like eating at McDonald's and you're paying for your food and then you get it later. You are paying your bill for the university on a per semester basis, and it's typically due the first day of that semester.
All these analogies are making me pretty hungry. I've not had dinner yet. Anybody else? Did we get the transport? What does transportation include?
So transportation is just an average figure that we have seen from our students in terms of traveling. We query the students and where the majority of them come from and just do an estimated mileage. So again, it's just an average a student may expect to spend in transportation, but it is entirely up to you and your student how much traveling they do. Now, I'll say that you can't go hog wild with that. It's not going to allow you to borrow more loan just because your student wants to come home every weekend. You know, those costs are pretty much set unless you have exceptional circumstances related to your educational program.
Good question. Anybody else?
Yeah, we have another one. Do we apply for the loans now based on the estimate or wait for the bill? I feel like I got to jump in here. The bill's going to be coming out real soon, so don't stress. And I know, again, 2 kids in school at the same time. The best thing where we're sitting right now, we might as well just wait for the bill to come out. What we do recommend doing though is taking a look and figuring out what is your plan of action. You know, are you going to apply for that Parent Plus loan? Or are you going to do the private alternative loan, or are you going to do the tuition payment plan? Have a plan of action set in place. And I know, again, as a parent myself, you know, we just want to get it over with. We want the bill to come, we want to pay it, and we want to be done. We promise that, you know, the applying process, it is completely different than when you apply for a mortgage that seems to take forever, like 30 days or so in order to hear back. It's a very fast process. So be aware of that. So whether it's through the Parent Plus loan, whether it's through those private companies, it's a really fast turnaround time. So again, please do not stress, just take a breath, wait a week or 2, and then you'll have the bill. You can get the exact costs in which you need, apply for it, take care of it, and then you'll be good to go.
Good question.
And I think we come back to that transportation question again, Amanda.
Oh.
I think let's pull back from transportation and instead give an analogy maybe with books. What do you think? So
Sure.
we have a book budget in there of what, $600 or so?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So again, it's a budget. Think of it, it's your piggy bank right here. It's $600. We put this budget in there. It's funny money. It's monopoly money. You don't need to borrow it. You don't need to take it. You may never need to use it. But we put it in there so if you did need to borrow additional funds, you could. So by all means, some of you may not get even close to $600 in books. Some of you may not even have a budget. Well, wouldn't that be nice? So no budget all for books. Some of you, unfortunately, may go way above that $600 for books. So it's the same kind of concept with transportation. It's just a budget out there in case you needed to borrow for transportation costs. We have students that come from California. We have students that come from, we have some Florida students, we have some Texas students. Well, obviously we have to put that transportation budget in there because of the flights. So you can see that you may have parents that they are borrowing that transportation budget that we've allotted because they don't have cash in hand in order to get their student home for Thanksgiving or for Christmas. So that kind of, so if you don't need transportation, you know, if you're just living over in Elwell and you're driving to Scranton, you don't need a transportation budget really. So think of it like that. But it's in there, you're not paying it to anybody. It would be expenses that you yourself would pay if you were traveling back and forth to school. Supplies, for example, we're not going to budget in how much Dial soap or your deodorant is. There's a budget in there, but you know, I know we're very thrifty parents, so you're not going to hit that supplies budget either. So just to kind of break it down a little bit easier for you. Great questions though, because you are right. It can be confusing when we're looking at all these line items and what they mean and trying to figure it out.
Yep, absolutely. Anybody else?
We got a few more minutes. Any other questions that you're thinking about?
Yeah, anything else? Let's see here.
Let's go back to work study. Amanda mentioned. Work study is a job on a college campus. It's not guaranteed. It's not required. We do not place students in a work study job. That does not come off the bill. Instead, the way it works is like if you were in the private business. Your students go out, they get a job at XYZ barista company. They interview, they get the job, they get hired, then they fill out the paperwork, and then they get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Same concept at Bloomsburg. What's pretty cool is that not only do we update our website with jobs all the time, so it's changing, it's fluid, so be aware of that, but we'll also have a job fair that'll come up, usually in September. I think our date is September 15th, if I'm correct. You'll see some advertisements for it. We'll have it up. If you're not on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We chalk the quad, if you know what that is. So parents and supporters, I literally go out there with chalk and write job fair or work study fair on the quad. And we'll try to hang up some other signage as well. And it's a great opportunity for students to mingle, great opportunity for students to learn about other programs, other offices. Work study is a great opportunity for your student. As I mentioned, it does not get applied to the bill, but that doesn't mean that your student can't save those funds. The student is paid by a paycheck. So they'd have to sign up for direct deposit. They're paid every 2 weeks. And you could have your student, save some of those funds and utilize them for next semester's tuition, even next semester's books. Work study is amazing in so many ways. And I look at Amanda and I'm going to throw it back at her. Amanda, were you a work study student?
I sure was. I was actually in the financial aid office.
Oh, imagine that.
I got into this career.
Yes. So I was a work study student as well in tutorial services, and a little fun fact that my work study supervisor came to my wedding and was also at both of my baby showers. So you can see that that work study opportunity can lead to not only being an awesome resume builder and some money in the student pocket, but a lifelong career like my friend Amanda, and having great connections like Professor Walters that I had.
Yes, and I would, the work study jobs are ideal, and they give you nice resume builders too. Can't say that enough. The students that work in admissions, they help with tours, they help with generating content, they help with events, they help with virtual events. They get a really rich experience. I always should have plugged working in the admissions office, but I see we have a couple more questions here.
They do plug financial aid too, though, okay? Because you can't take everybody.
That's right.
You know what, Marla? We have another question. We'll get to that later. Yeah, we'll get to that later.
There is a work study question, Tom, so I'm just going to answer that really quick.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so they asked about how early can students apply. You can actually start looking for jobs right now, and then as we get closer to the fall semester, more and more offices will contact us with information about potential openings. So I would say go ahead and start that process now, looking for a job, and then have the student reach out to the supervisor listed if they are interested in pursuing that position.
Yes. Yep. In a follow-up question from Robin here, can a student apply to more than one of the banks listed on the Elm Select and then choose based on what she is approved for?
Technically, yes, but we don't encourage you to apply to more than one at a time. And the reason is pretty straightforward, that your endorser, your cosigner, is going to get multiple credit hits at the same time, which is not great for your credit history. So we recommend pursuing one lender at a time, going all the way through their process. And if they are denied for that particular loan, then you can move on to the next lender.
Anybody else? Yeah, and we have a lot of students who work on campus in work study positions who then go on and are able to turn it into a grad assistantship. And a grad assistantship is also a position on campus, but instead of getting a paycheck, it pays for your master's degree or grad degree. So there's a lot of, again, a lot of advantages to the work study positions, and you don't have to leave campus to do it. I think, the convenience is really important. And each office is going to have the minimum understanding that you are a student first and an employee second.
Yeah.
So working around a class schedule, working around studying, that's That's part and parcel with the job.
Absolutely. And we have many offices have a really good time with it. I can tell you our office in particular, I think we win in terms of dressing up and luncheons and brunches and
You do.
breakfast. We definitely do.
I will for sure rep for the financial aid office. You all are very festive. You guys do a good job of making an already fun subject like financial aid even more fun.
Why, thank you. Thank you. And something else that we just want to, throw out there is we do recognize our work study employees. They are an integral part of our campus in all aspects. And we recognize them. We have a work study student of the year. We have a rookie of the year. We have runners up. We provide prizes. We provide fun days for a whole week, which is the National Student Employee Appreciation Week. So every day during that week, we have themed events where we encourage different offices to dress up, of course, and compete against each other. We awarded a pizza party. We've given out, if you take a look at us out on Facebook, the financial aid website, you can see we gave out Rita's water ice and we dressed up as Ice Baby. I was a bag of ice. The work study coordinator was a bag of ice. And Amanda, what were you?
I was the baby, big and all. Yeah.
So we really do appreciate them. It's a great opportunity. So really encourage your student to come out and to get a job with any office.
And we had another question from Nolan. Do we need to accept the direct loan unsubsidized if we don't need the money for the fall, but might need it for the spring?
No, you don't have to take action on those loans if you do not need them for fall. However, I'll state that it will sit out there and potentially, depending on our volume, we may start contacting the student to find out whether they want to pursue that if it gets really late in the fall semester. Also, the loans are processed on a fall spring basis. And so if you choose to not accept them right now and then accept them for the spring, you will still get your fall disbursement. Now, if you only want a spring loan, you can contact our loan processing staff to have that process for spring only down the road. And that leads me to, I hope you can tell today that we are a friendly bunch and that your students and you should not hesitate to reach out to us because we would be more than happy to help with any questions or concerns that you have.
And thank you, Emma. Really appreciate you joining in. Thank you to everybody. We still have a couple more minutes if anybody has any additional questions though. My children have been shockingly well behaved during the event. I'm just waiting for them to like kick down the door.
I would have loved it.
Yeah.
I would have loved it.
Yeah.
And we tell them, all right, Daddy needs like an hour. They're like, okay, hey.
Oh, you got a happy birthday, Marla.
Happy birthday.
Lita. Thank you, Lita.
Nice touch. That's a nice touch.
Absolutely.
Is there a party in the financial aid office tomorrow to celebrate such a momentous occasion?
No, I'm thinking maybe next week we'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any reason, Tom.
There you go. That's right. Nothing wrong with that.
Did you catch our outfits last week, Tom?
I did not know. What was
You missed out.
for the season?
Just for fun.
Okay. I like it.
We all dressed as Schitt's Creek characters. It was.
Oh, so all right. So my wife loves the show. I've never seen.
Mhm.
I feel like I normally catch things like 5 years after they've gone off. I get to them, but I normally run a good half a decade behind normally. But I've heard that's a really, really good show. So who were you then?
I was Jocelyn.
Jocelyn. Okay.
And
Miss
Marla,
Marla.
of course.
I was Moira.
Of course.
Moira. Yes. She's the
Alexa.
mom. Is Moira's the mom?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Okay. Yeah, because she's the mom in Home Alone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Home Alone mom.
So if you do come into the financial aid office and you're wondering why is Marla dressed as a turkey, or
It's because it's a Tuesday.
it could be, or it could be a holiday. So
Or it could be
don't run
Tuesday.
away.
Yeah.
Just join us.
Yes. Yep. Well, it looks like we've answered everyone's questions, and again, I really appreciate it. And I know, we try to make light of the subject, but this is, really important. And I think, probably the biggest takeaway should be is you should not feel like you've got to traverse this journey on your own. We are more than happy to help. By we, I basically mean Marla and Amanda. I would love to be able to help. I don't know that I have the knowledge. Question from Lori, missed the first half of the meeting. Will I be able to watch this again on YouTube tonight? Yes and no. Yes, it will be on YouTube. It might not be tonight. I will probably get it up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. And I'll probably put a notification up on our social media accounts to bring it to everyone's attention that this has been, that the recording has been posted. But thank you, Laura. I appreciate you asking. That's a great question. I should have mentioned that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But again, you should not feel like you have to, figure this out on your own. We are here to help, and we work for you, and we're happy to do so. So we look forward to hearing from everybody in the future, and hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Wendy.